That's okay.
Is it on?
Yes. Let's pull it back just a little bit like that. Maybe fine.
Good morning. Good morning, IMSA. My name is Katie Berger, and I serve as the Executive Director of Student Affairs here at IMSA, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 2019-2020 academic year. Yeah! Today is one of my favorite days of the year. Everybody is moved in. Everybody has reconnected with old friends, is starting to meet new friends, and everyone always shows up early and dressed really nice. Y'all look really good this morning. Yeah, you do. I'm so pleased to welcome the class of 2022, our sophomores, to their first convocation. Let's hear it for the class of 2022. It's been a pleasure getting to know all 220 of you over the last few days, and welcome to your first day at IMSA. Our juniors are back in action, the class of 2021, let's hear it. You're not the new kids on the block anymore, you know how this works, and we're so pleased to have you back for your junior year. And of course, we couldn't start the school year off without all of our faculty and staff, the people that keep this place running, yes. You know, even though our students go away and have a nice reprieve over the summer, we have a lot of staff members and some faculty who spend their whole summer here at IMSA, working year-round to have this place ready for you in August. And to all of our 10-month colleagues who just returned, the building is alive again. With you here and your renewed energy is really what's helping us get this year started off right, so thank you. And last but certainly not least, our seniors, the class I love the enthusiasm. The seniors know what's up. They gave themselves a standing ovation. I love it. I love it. Welcome back for your senior year. We know that only good things are ahead for you, and we're so excited to be a part of the journey. Yesterday afternoon, I had the opportunity to spend my time with our sophomore class listening to our featured speaker during Welcome Week, Matt Glowacki. Matt is a civility speaker who focuses on inclusion and diversity. He's also a former Olympic athlete, an entrepreneur who owns 3 businesses. And when I asked him what he wanted me to share about him while I introduced him, all he said is, just tell him that I'm funny, which he was. Matt started off his time with us by talking about the day he was born. Matt was born with no legs. And when his parents saw this, they automatically began thinking about all of the things that they would need to do as parents to help him have the best life possible. They talked about selling their tri-level house because of all the stairs, all the things that they were going to do. And the doctor stopped Matt's dad and said, give him a chance to surprise you. And that really stuck with me. What a powerful message. Give him a chance to surprise you. And as we go into this academic year, I want you to keep that in the back of your mind. So when you're sitting in class and you start to question the way a faculty member is delivering the content, maybe it's a little bit different than the classes that you've sat in the past, give him or her a chance to surprise you. Give your peers a chance to surprise you. But most of all, give yourself a chance to do things that you didn't even know were possible. Surprise all of us and surprise yourself. Welcome to the 2019-2020 academic year. Let's have a good one. Welcome back. And now I'd like to invite your Student Council President, Ray Shang, to the podium.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Good morning, IMSA. So this summer, while I was away from IMSA, there was something I did a lot. Unfortunately, it wasn't running my Common App, sorry, Mrs. Mullenhouse. But I often went on long drives. I'd drive to my old middle school, and I'd do slow circles around the basketball hoops I used to play on. I'd drive to my old elementary school, and I'd see our iconic dumpster behind which I kissed the first love of my life. Hopefully my dad doesn't see this live stream. Anyways, while I drove, there was a song I played a lot, and it was called "Take Me Home, Country Roads." This was 1504's theme song for Clash of the Halls last year, but in a way, it was everyone's theme song. There was something magical about the way everyone would sing this song. When you sang it, it felt like you were a part of something bigger than yourself and that you were all in this together, and so we all sang our hearts out to this song. This song about the feeling of homesickness and going on a road trip back home. And you know what? Life is like a road trip. Okay, not exactly, but life is sort of like a road trip. And how is life sort of like a road trip? I'm glad you all asked. There are a lot of reasons, but I'm going to talk about two in particular today that I think are very relevant to IMSA. The first reason why life is sort of like a road trip is because the places you visit on your road trip are like the things you do and experience in life. If you want to enjoy the places you visit, you can't visit too many places. Listen, say you only have a week to road trip all of Illinois and to see all the amazing and interesting things Illinois has to offer, especially Southern Illinois. If you visit every single one of the 102 counties in Illinois, you're going to be rushing from county to county. You won't have any time to enjoy what you're seeing or what you're doing or what you're experiencing. Like, you'll go to Southern Illinois and be like, okay, cool, lots of corn. And then you have to move on because you only have a week. Does that sound familiar to some of you all? You know, you have a meeting, and then you have to rush back to 7-check, and then you have to go to another meeting, and then you have a problem set, but you have to rush through that problem set because you have an essay to do, and that essay you have to rush through because it's due at 11:59 p.m. Yeah, this is the problem us IMSA students face. We overcommit, and we visit way too many places on our road trips. When you overcommit, you have to rush through your problem set, and then you don't understand the ideas deeply. You have to rush through your assigned reading, so you can't completely understand what the author is trying to say. You have to rush through your extracurricular work, so you lose sight of the value in the work you're doing. You rush through things, so you think, reflect, and experience less. And in the end, you might get burnt out and not enjoy any of what you're doing at all. So to the class of 2020 and 21, I encourage you to embrace saying no to things. People talk about how hard junior year and first semester senior year are, but give yourself the time to do things well and enjoy what you're doing. Don't strive to survive these times, strive to live. And to the fresh-faced, bright-eyed class of 2022, as you think about how you'd like to be involved at IMSA, remember not to overcommit. Pick a few things and pour your heart and soul into them, and I promise you'll experience and learn so much more on your road trip. Now, the second reason why life is sort of like a road trip is because often a road trip is more fulfilling when you have someone with you. There was a particular week near the end of my junior year that was not good. I had a big English podcast project, 3 essays, so many tests. I had serious family issues going on. I was thinking about dropping out, and I felt so alone because I had isolated myself from everyone that week to work. And I remember just not being able to hold it in at the end of the week during my 5th mod. And I remember I texted my friend Hassan, and I told him, bro, I miss you. I'm in class right now, and I don't know why, but I'm crying. And he left his class just to be there for me and give me a hug. You know, sometimes when you're on road trips, you have to drive for a long time. And you have to work really hard to get where you want to get. And sometimes it gets super lonely and disheartening. I came to IMSA, this long, arduous road trip, for an education. But along the way, man, I found people that have gotten me through those long drives. People that have given me more fulfillment in my life than I could have ever imagined. So to the class of 2022, you have a long drive ahead of you. Drive unwaveringly, but take time to find your lifelong friends. To the class of 2021, this year, you might have to drive longer than you've ever had to before. But remember to reach out and be there for one another. You don't have to drive alone. And to the class of 2020, although we still have a third of our road trip left, man, it'll happen in a blink of an eye. And it'll leave you wondering, where did all the time go? So cherish this last year with the people you love. And to the whole IMSA community, take care of each other. And I mean anyone. If you're a student, you might not think that it is your duty to be there for an adult. Or if you're not in RC, you might not think it is your duty to be there for a student. Maybe it is not your duty as a student, administrator, faculty, or staff member, but it is your duty as a human being. If you see someone, never hesitate to ask if there is something on their mind, because it might just change their life. So remember, life is sort of like a road trip, I guess. Don't overcommit on your road trip, and make sure to have someone along the ride with you. And sometimes while you're on the road, you might want to turn on the radio and sing a song with your friends. You might be feeling a little homesick, so you'll sing, "Country roads, take me home to the place I belong, West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home, country roads." So to the administrators, distinguished guests, faculty, and staff, welcome home. To the class of 2020 and 2021, welcome home. And last but not least, to the class of 2022, welcome to your new home. Thank you. Now, please join me in giving a warm welcome to IMSA's President, Dr. Torres.
We can just stop and go home right now. This is great, Ray. Good job. It always amazes me that while we don't share our topics, there's always a thread that happens through many of these speeches, and so you might see a thread here. Rose Moore, IMSA's first Latin teacher. Yes, IMSA students at IMSA learned Latin for the first 13 years, 1986 to 1999. Thank you, Doc Knock, for helping me find this information. I thought I would share some lessons in Latin about how to succeed at IMSA with our newest class of students, our sophomores. Of course, our juniors and seniors will also learn and apply some of these lessons. Well, technically, I'm not going to share the lessons in Latin, but I'm going to use some Latin words and phrases to make some of my points. Are you ready for your first lesson? Are you ready? But first, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the new academic year, 2019-2020, and our Convocation ceremony. I want to offer a very warm and special welcome to our newest class, the class of 2022. You're about to embark on a 3-year, life-altering adventure. Are you in the house, class of 2022? Welcome back home to the class of 2021. With 1 year behind and 1 year ahead of you, are you ready to seize the day now that you have established some rituals at IMSA? Class of 2021, let people know you're present. And to the class of 2020, what can we say about you? When you arrived at IMSA in 2017, all of us had to wear these funky glasses because you were so bright. You almost blinded us. Of course, your arrival coincided with the first solar eclipse that could be seen from the United States in 99 years. Class of 2020, you have 1 more year. Welcome back. Make some noise because I can't see you. This morning we have IMSA ambassadors, IMSA emeriti, IMSA founding president, IMSA fund president and directors, and so many other VIPs that I will not be able to name them by name, but I would like our students and faculty to give them a warm welcome as they stand so that we can recognize them. Please stand, VIPs. Students, many faculty and residence counselors are just back from their break, but they're ready to receive you in their classrooms and to support you in your residence halls. Please give them a standing ovation. Students, give faculty and residence counselors a standing ovation. Thank you. Now back to our to our Convocation message. Someone has called Convocation the scholarly circle of life. Now I haven't seen the new Lion King movie, but I'm sure that it contains songs and the theme of the circle of life. The scholarly circle of life points to the fact that as you new IMSA incoming class have great potential to learn and grow and expand your belonging and identity here at IMSA, the outgoing class, the class of 2019, which we celebrated at commencement in June just 2 months ago, left IMSA with the potential to demonstrate to the world what they learned and how they grew at IMSA. thus the scholarly circle of life. And here I was going to sing, but we already have a musical performance, so I'm not going to sing. I'll spare all of you. In order for you, the class of 2022, and your fellow students in the class of 2021 and 2020, to succeed, you must learn the following lessons beginning today and throughout your tenure at IMSA and into your future. The first lesson is confidere. Everyone repeat the Latin word confidere after me. Confidere. You can use an Italian accent, a Spanish accent, a French accent, any other Romance languages, because no one really knows what Latin sounded like. Confidere is a compound word made up of con, meaning intense force, with fidere, meaning trust. Confidence thus means intense, confidere thus means intense trust, confidence, intense trust in yourself. You belong here. You received a letter from the admissions office congratulating you and inviting you to come to IMSA. When the stress comes, remember you belong here. You were admitted to IMSA. When people say to you, you got in because of one thing or another, you live in Naperville or in Morris, you look a certain way, or you speak in a particular manner, remember you belong here. You received the same admissions letter that the other person did. Indeed, everyone here received the same admissions letter. Now, all the confidence in the world will do you no good if you want to grow and succeed at IMSA if you do not have glarea. Repeat, glarea. This word is grit in Latin. Other words we could have used are animo, which means courage, propono, which means resolve, or arbitrium, which means determination. Glarea, grit, is our second lesson. Many in the room might be familiar with Angela Duckworth's work and book, Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance. I encourage you to see Dr. Duckworth's TED Talk and read her publications if you haven't yet. The reason I bring grit up after talking about confidence is that IMSA will test you. For you to succeed at IMSA, you will need to take risk. To fully lean in to risk, you must accept failure. To face failure and come out on the other side standing, you will need to have grit or ferocious determination. There is an old Japanese saying, nanakarobi yaoki. I know I'm supposed to be doing the lessons in Latin, but I couldn't help but share a Japanese phrase that we also taught at IMSA Japanese, and Sensei Bascom taught at IMSA for many years. Nanakarobi yaoki means fall 7, rise 8. This saying, in some ways, is the essence of grit. Grit is the superpower that can help you succeed at IMSA. One of the first experiences you may have at IMSA is that you find out that although you were number 1 at your school, class number 1 nerd and geek, here at IMSA, we're all nerds and geeks. Here at IMSA, many students score well on tests, have had many opportunities to learn and know a lot. If Angela Duckworth knew IMSA, she would say to you, if you want to make it through the challenges at IMSA, you will need to cultivate grit. She wrote, after decades of working on a theory to explain achievement, I finally came up with 2 simple equations that explain how you get from talent to achievement. Here they are. Talent times effort equals skill. Skill times effort equals achievement. Duckworth says individuals in identical circumstances, that is, here at IMSA, will achieve different things based on 2 things, talent and effort. Talent is how fast you can improve a skill. Effort factors in the equation twice, not once. Effort builds skills. At the very same time, effort makes skill productive. Talent times effort equals skill. Skill times effort equals achievement. Effort counts twice. Did you like how in my Latin lesson I've also included Japanese, and now I've included mathematics, Mathematics is actually a language we still teach at IMSA. Duckworth continues, our potential is one thing. What we do with it is quite another. I'll conclude with this point and final quote from Angela Duckworth. She said, without effort, your talent is nothing more than unmet potential. Without effort, your skill is nothing more than you could have done but didn't. With effort, talent becomes skill, and at the very same time, effort makes skill productive. There you have it. Glarea, or grit in Latin, or if you prefer animo, courage, propono, resolve, or arbitrium, determination. So we have established that to be successful at IMSA, you need to have confidence and you need to have grit. You also need to get in the habit of doing things in proven ways so that you can achieve the same positive results. You don't want to reinvent the wheel every time you face a routine challenge or task. As the great psychologist William James said, there is no more miserable human being than the one for whom every beginning of every bit of work must be decided anew each day. We call those habits. A higher form of a habit, one where we are mindful of it, not just performing it involuntarily, is a ritual. A habit is a pattern of behavior that has become involuntary. You do it without thinking. Brushing your teeth, taking a shower, I hope those are your habits, young men and women. Putting on your seatbelt. A ritual doesn't have to be religious in nature. A ritual is doing something in a specific way to achieve a specific result. IMSA sophomores, learn from your juniors and seniors who have developed habits, and many are developing rituals in which they are taking mindful actions to accomplish specific positive results. Our third lesson, thus, is ritus. Repeat, ritus. Ritus. Ritus is ritual in Latin. I urge you, sophomores, and everyone present, to establish mindful acts that lead to your physical and emotional health. Develop rituals such as eat, move, and sleep to increase your physical health. And develop rituals to intentionally recover emotionally after periods of stress to increase your emotional health. Before moving on to the next lesson, let me pause and remind IMSA staff in the room of something I mentioned at Community Day on Wednesday regarding our need as adults to model the behavior, habits, and rituals of physical and emotional health for our students. Author and activist James Baldwin put it this way: children have never been very good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate them. Our next and final lesson is a made-up Latin word from H.A. Dorfman, author of Coaching the Mental Game. He coaches his athletes to focus on the moment, to be present in the very thing you're doing. It's actually a good way to manage stress and reduce anxiety and worry. Focusing on the moment in Latin is carpe punctum, but H.A. Dorfman calls it carpe momentum to indicate not only to seize the moment, but when you do, you also get momentum or progress. So our final lesson is carpe punctum. Repeat, carpe punctum. And carpe momentum. Carpe momentum. Another way to think about carpe punctum and carpe momentum is carpe diem. You knew I was going to use that one, right? Everyone knows that one. Carpe diem. Seize the day. Make the most of the day. Actually, carpe diem, as I did my research, doesn't really mean seize the day. It literally means to pluck the moment while it is ripe. Seize the moment. Students, take advantage of the opportunities at IMSA. Seize every opportunity. Seize each moment at IMSA. At IMSA, you have the resources in your faculty and RCs who can help support and develop in your development. Faculty and staff, including RCs, have skills and expertise that you can take advantage of to develop your own skills and expertise, your unique voice. At IMSA, you have resources in your peers. At Thursday's meeting with sophomore parents and students, I mentioned that I reviewed every senior's comment in the acronym's senior edition. I reviewed their BA and BR, biggest accomplishments and biggest regrets. Invariably, senior after senior talked about their BA, biggest accomplishments, as their lifelong friends they developed at IMSA, breaking out of their shells sooner, and developing self-confidence. A few listed their athletic achievement, while a handful described getting into the college of their choice and another achievement as their BA. What did the seniors of the class of 2019 list as their biggest regrets? They lamented not meeting more of their classmates, not getting to know more people at IMSA. They regretted that as sophomores, they did not meet more juniors and seniors. Their biggest regrets centered around not getting involved in cultural shows, not being more social, worrying too much. Oh yeah, there was one student who said their essay was late and they should have turned it in earlier, but one student said that. I loved one of the biggest regret statements, which said, I should have danced more at IMSA. In conclusion, my last and final lesson for our students, indeed for everyone hearing my voice, I urge you to seize the day, my friends. Seize each moment. Carpe diem. All together. Carpe diem. Thank you. Now I'm going to begin a new convocation ceremony for me at IMSA. Each year at commencement, I am formally presented the graduating class by the principal, and I formally accept the class and proclaim them to be worthy to receive their diplomas and medallions. Class of 2020, we will soon be doing this with you at commencement on Saturday, May 30, 2020. Believe me, time will fly. So today I want to start a new tradition for me at IMSA. I would like to formally accept the class of 2022. Sophomores, members of the class of 2022, please rise and remain standing. Remain standing. Admission staff, Kelly Lofgren, Kiantra Loza, I know she's not here, but Jackie Salinas, Gerard Tobler, please stand. And everyone who served on the Admissions Review Selection Committee and the Admissions Selection Committee, please stand. Thank you for presenting to me the class of 2022. By the authority vested in me as president of the Illinois Mathematics and Science Academy, and on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the state of Illinois, I proclaim that these students, members of the class of 2022, now that they have been admitted to IMSA, are worthy to be accepted as full members of the community whose mission is to ignite and nurture creative, ethical, scientific minds that advance the human condition. Best wishes to all in a successful 2019-2020 academic year. Thank you.
Good morning. Wow. First, we have Ray starting us off. Actually, Ms. Berger starting us off with that incredible welcome, and then Ray. You're just an amazing speaker. And can we give him another round of applause? It's really exciting to see students as they come in as sophomores and then being able to come up here and stand in front of all of you, all 900 of us in this gymnasium speaking. And it's an incredible sight, so thanks, Ray. Again, welcome everyone. And this day is always exciting for me. And it's my 25th time not being up here, but my 25th convocation. And each year is just memorable in its own way. And this year in particular, with the singing, with the languages, with the singing that we're going to have again, and with our keynote speaker, this is building up to be an exciting day. And I hope each and every one of you remember this day. And I want us to think about this, and I look at one of our belief statements. I love looking at our belief statements. That's who I am. That's why I'm here at IMSA. And one of the belief statements I want to really focus on today is belonging to a community requires commitment to the common good. And you can take many meanings from what that means. You can say committed to do your best, committed to do what's right, committed to be your purpose. What's your purpose of being here? But are you committed to each other? And last year I stood up here and talked about relationships. And this year I want to talk about staying committed to those relationships. And why I want to talk about this is last June, actually last May 31st, we had a senior banquet. Parent Association puts on this senior banquet every year the night before graduation, celebrating the seniors' achievements over the last 3 years. And some of us get invited to speak, and so there's a couple of tables. There's select faculty that come, and they're at one table with their spouses, and then the other table, it's usually Dr. Torres, myself, and Dana Gannett was in there, Robin was in there. There were a few of us, and there were a couple seats that were empty. And lo and behold, there was a student and his parents, he's an only child, they wanted to come at the last minute. So lucky them, they got to sit with the president and the principal of IMSA. So most people would think, this is awful. Why do I get to sit with the president and the principal? And so we had a nice little time, just kind of chatting. But then the student's dad started talking, and we just started sharing some stories about how big the place was. And I mentioned that, we had one place where it was at the Chateau Rand where it was just overloaded and we had too many people. And he goes, yeah, I went to prom there. And I'm like, I went to prom there. When did you go? And he said the date, and I said, I was at that date too. What's your last name? And we didn't recognize each other, but we had been friends 39 years before. Yeah, we each had lost all of our hair at the time by now, and so, at the time we all had this huge black hair on our heads and that type of thing, but for the next 2 hours, and I monopolized him, we sat and reminisced, and we sat and talked. And we sat and talked about cross-country and track, which we ran together in. And we talked about the friends that we lost connections with. And we talked about the people that we used to know, and the friends who had passed away, and the friends who we said friends at the time. Were we really friends? And it really struck both of us. And so we took some Snapchats of each other, and yeah, we did. I'm a Snapchat guy. And I sent it to my best friend who I'd known since freshman year in high school, and he knew right away. He goes, oh my gosh. And I knew he had known him since grade school, and we just lost touch. And it made me sad, because here was a guy who was just such a neat man who had gone through such hard times, and we lost touch. And I never connected with him for 39 years. But then I did that night, and I said, I need to stay connected with him. And we have. We've texted. I got him set up with, it's his 40th, not mine. It's his 40th class reunion this year, and so he's going to it. And he's reconnected with all of his friends. And we have stayed in contact. And we laugh about it. But I said, I need to remind others about staying connected. And just the other day, 2 former students came in, Lucilina and Anthony. And they came by the office and I wasn't there, and they kind of stuck around, and I finally met them in student life, and I reconnected with them, and they're engaged. And it's absolutely beautiful. And yes, Minerva, I do understand why you never told me that they were engaged, because they wanted to share that moment. They wanted to share that moment with me. And I love them for it. They are amazing people that are just kind people that wanted to share their news with IMSA, their community. It's people who they respected, people who they wanted to reconnect with. So here's my ask. For all the students and faculty and staff, I want you to make those connections and commit to them now. Build on the relationships that you have and don't let them go. I love what Ray was talking about when he said, this can be your home. This is your home. IMSA is a community where it can be your home. What's your purpose for being home? We want you to fly. We want you to soar. But we also want you to reconnect. Students, use your time wisely here. Connect with the other students. They will be there for you. They will. The faculty will be there for you. The staff will be there for you. Staff and faculty, make those commitments to the students. Not just in class, but show up for Clash of the Halls. Not just at check, but show up in a class. Talk to their friends. Make those connections. I really ask for you to reach outside the box to make those connections. My wife reconnected with a dear friend who had passed away, his wife. We had not seen her since his death, since his funeral. And it was just his anniversary a little bit ago. And it was like the day never passed, a day never passed. We sat down and there was connection. And we reconnected. And we talked about old times. And we wanted to share the times that we've had and what about the times we will have in the future. So please, take the time out to reconnect. Take the time to reconnect with the alum. Take the time for the staff who just started last year. There's alum out there right now. They're a year old, but reconnect with them. Don Dosh is really good at connecting with friends from the past. He talks to the alum. He makes sure that he connects with them all the time. Do that. Make a point to do that. You never know when you might meet up with one of your colleagues. You never know when you next see them, next month, next year, or even 39 years from now. Just imagine in 39 years where you'll be. And it's going to be really cool to walk up and say, hey, weren't you at IMSA? I'm an IMSA grad too. Or I'm an IMSA faculty member too. Or I was a staff member there too. Or you know what? I was a part of IMSA once as well. Let's talk, because we're all in this community. So I ask you, the people of IMSA, you make this community. You make it grow, and you connect it. So please, reconnect with those around you. So I'm going to ask you to do right now is, yes, turn to the person next to you and say hello and introduce yourself. Go for it. So now I'd like to welcome two of our alum as they come up on the stage. I'd like to introduce to our guests Alexandra from the class of '07 and her accompanist Joe from the class of '97. Please join me in welcoming them back as they perform for us. Again, let's give a great round of applause to Alexandra and Joe. I now have the distinct pleasure of introducing our keynote today, our speaker, Claudia Flores, from the class of 1993. You see her bio that's in the program, but I like to do things a little differently, so I went back into her application file and read a couple things about Claudia that she had written that I wanted to share with you today, because it does give insight into who she is today. She was born in Yugoslavia, and her parents were from Peru, but she moved to the United States. And she loves learning and is a lifelong learner. And that was a quote that she had put in her application. She went to Wabanzi Valley High School for her first year and then came to IMSA. But the cool thing about, when I read all through the things, there's a quote that she had put in there, or that she had written, that I really loved. And it was a time when she went to the Museum of Science and Industry, and she said, "This is a place where anything is possible." And then she wrote, "I wanted to be one of those people that invented things to make the world a better place." Once you hear from Claudia, you'll understand she has made good on her promise. Please welcome our very own Claudia Flores.
Thank you very much for that potentially very embarrassing introduction. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you. Class of 2020, 21, 22. I want to especially give another round of applause to the class of 2022. I think you've been here for 4 or 5 days, right? So I think I'm going to begin my speech with a confession. I think all good speeches begin with confessions. When I was invited this year to speak at Convocation, I was very excited and honored, but honestly also a bit apprehensive. Typically, Convocation speeches by alumni involve a bit of reminiscing and a bit of advice. And unfortunately, as many of my friends and all of my family know who are here, my long-term memory is not so great. And it never has been. This is not an age thing, it's always been that way. I'd like to say that I was born an absent-minded professor. So I reached out to 2 of my closest IMSA friends, Mike Tay and Liv Yestavong, both from the class of 1993. Mike was a Shmen, I don't know if we still have those. Yes, all right. You will be tortured and also honored at the same time. In any case, I reached out to them and I asked them to help jog my memory. I think what I actually said was, so what happened in high school? Please remind me. And they indulged me. They reminded me that I was in 1504, which I understand is now a boys' dorm, male dorm, right? They reminded me of our senior year camping trip, of which incriminating photos still pop up occasionally, although thankfully it was before the digital age, so people actually have to take photos of the photos and then send them to each other. They reminded me of our really ridiculous inside jokes that no one thought were funny except for the 5 people who were present at the time. Liv, who was my roommate for 2 years, reminded me of the hours that we spent in our dorm room in the dark listening to Sarah McLachlan and the Smiths. She also reminded me of her practice of throwing shoes at the bathroom door when I would talk on the phone endlessly into the night, and it was really irritating her. My friends reminded me that in high school, I had a uniform, which was Keds, stonewashed jeans, a white t-shirt, and a flannel shirt over it. It was the 90s, you know, grunge was in. This is what we wore. They also reminded me that I decided at one point that it would be really cool to wear paper clips as earrings and just hang them on my ear. So as these conversations went on, I started really appreciating the benefits of a shoddy long-term memory. But my friend Mike, very wise man, said 2 things that stayed with me. One was that, well, this will come as no surprise, but I was far more passionate about my philosophy and humanities courses than I was about my math and science courses while I was here. And for those of you for which that's true, that is okay. It's okay to be a humanities person here at IMSA. He also said something else. Yes, yes. There is room for you. I'm going to talk about it. So Mike also said something else to me. He said, I really didn't know anything about life in high school, but I knew you really well. And knowing what I know now, you are exactly where you were meant to be. It's funny because we spend a lot of time thinking about the ways that we change. And we do change so much. So many things will happen in your lives. So many things will happen to you this year. For those of you going to college in a year, you will experience many very dramatic changes. And those of us who have gone through many of these changes just love telling those of you who haven't how much you're going to change. But the truth is, I think at least on a general level, I can summarize for you in the next 2 minutes what is going to happen in the next 40 years of your professional life. Shall I do that? 2 minutes. Okay, I'm going to start with your 20s. Most of you will spend your 20s, I hope, having some fun, but actually you're going to be mostly in a state of anxiety and stress because you are going to be trying to get somewhere. You will be incredibly preoccupied with this journey. Some of you won't know exactly where you're trying to go. Others will, but you'll be trying to get there, wherever that is. You'll wonder sometimes why you aren't being given a chance to prove that you can already be the thing that you're trying to be. You're going to be frustrated by barriers and blocks and detours. You'll compare your progress with that of others, and you'll wonder why the path isn't clearer. But no matter what, you will be spending your 20s in an anxious state of becoming. Then you go into your 30s. You'll supposedly have arrived, at least at the initial stages of the place that you're going. And you'll look around and you will say to yourself, why are people trusting me to be this thing? Does everyone else feel like an imposter here? I'm just going to put my head down and fake it till I make it, and all the while you will be honing your expertise. Then your 40s. Those are the best, because by then you're pretty much there. You've been doing whatever you've been doing long enough that you realize it is highly unlikely that someone is going to come into your office and say, hey, how did you get in here? Get out. So in your 40s, when somebody hands you a microphone and says speak, you think to yourself, well, maybe somebody else could do a better job at this, but I'm the one standing here, so pass it on over. Now that's as far as I can speak from personal experience, but I hear that your 50s and 60s are fantastic because you actually do know more than everyone else in the room, and you are no longer worried about the consequences of saying so. So, there you go, 40 to 50 years of your life that I just summarized for you, and a lot to look forward to. But that's not actually what I want to talk to you about today. What I want to talk to you about, and what I want to share with you, is what I realized when I was speaking to Mike. And that is this, that despite all of these changes, we are all, in essence, ourselves at every age. At IMSA, I was a version of the person standing before you now. You are going to change, yes, but you are you already in a way that is deeply important and fundamental. And I want to talk to that you. I want to talk to the timeless you, the one that exists now and maybe standing here at this podium in 20 years. I want to tell that you about 2 of my memories while I was at IMSA, and I swear these are my memories, they were not handed to me. But they're 2 memories that have stayed with me and have heavily impacted how I think about the world, how I relate to it, the things that I care about, and the work that I do now. The first is a story I read in a class, Utopia, Anti-Utopia. I'm guessing you still have this class. The story was by Ursula Le Guin. It's called The Ones Who Walk Away from Omaha. Some of you may have read it. It's about a town in which life is perfect and ideal. The citizens have plenty to eat, they have shelter, they are kind to one another, and there is time for relaxation and play. Life is lovely, except for one small hitch. At some point in their young adulthood, your age, each person is taken to a dark, secret place where they are shown one child who has been placed in a life of deprivation, isolation, and torture. The child, they are meant to understand, is the price the community pays to continue to exist in its idealistic state. One child living in misery against everyone else's happiness. Now, when each citizen of the village is exposed to this truth, they have one of 2 reactions. Most people go back to their lives and enjoy the idealistic existence they have come to know. They try to forget what they've seen. But others, far fewer, walk away from the town because they can't live with the knowledge that the suffering of one child goes forward, even if it is in exchange for the happiness of the rest of the community. I remember finding this story disturbing and sad, but also very disorienting. Clearly, the overall good was benefited by this arrangement. A community where people took care of each other and were happy and peaceful, and only one person had to suffer in exchange. The part of my brain that was used to thinking about how to maximize the good was satisfied, but I also knew that something was deeply off. You've likely been asked to think about this already, or you will be. To think about the question. It preoccupies social contract and utilitarian philosophy. The question of whether and how much the few, the minority, can be made to sacrifice in exchange for the majority, the greater good. It is a choice made by policymakers, business leaders, doctors, and judges on a regular basis. My second memory is from a series of lectures that took place during my time at IMSA. Between 1991 and 1993, Maya Angelou, Carl Sagan, and Edward Teller all came to campus to speak with the students. I remember Teller's visit particularly well. For those who don't know this, Teller was involved in the development of the hydrogen bomb. And I think it's fair to say that he was and remains a controversial figure. I remember being part of a group of students discussing with him the interactions of policy, morality, and science. Teller came to talk to us about the balance between the unfettered pursuit of knowledge and technologies and the separate decision about how to apply them. You've all grown up with this debate swirling around you and the well-accepted reality that we might create something for one purpose, but it might come to serve another. The internet itself, the Amazon Echo that orders my groceries and tells my daughter jokes, can also spy on me. The programs that collect and use the data about my income level and geographic location to tell Trunk Club my likely style preferences, saving me a shopping trip, can also tell a political party how I will vote and how to influence my political choices. Facebook is both a platform that many are wary of and that may have allowed the Russians to influence our elections, but it also allowed an activist in Vietnam to organize support for her release from prison after she criticized the government's environmental policies. It seems actually that nearly every step that humans take, especially now as our abilities have expanded in new and undreamed of directions, that we are faced with a central question in all of these contexts: how the individual, the I, the you, and the me, the components of society, interact with and are valued by the group, the community, and the us. Or more directly, what costs are we willing to impose on the individual for the good of the community? And what follows, on what basis do we make decisions about scientific advancements or resource allocations in light of the competing benefits and harms to the individual and society? Let me give you some examples. I just came back from Cambodia, where I was doing research on the issue of gestational surrogacy. Gestational surrogacy is where a woman becomes pregnant and gives birth to a child through the process of IVF, and the child is genetically unconnected to the surrogate, with the intention of having the child go to a third party. This medical advancement has opened up the possibility for many who were previously unable to have children. Same-sex couples, infertile couples, women who decide that they want to work for a while before they have children. And gestational surrogacy is arguably an exercise of women's reproductive rights to decide what to do with their reproductive capacity. It has also, however, opened up a new environment with the potential for quite a bit of exploitation. Women in poorer countries are increasingly serving as surrogates because costs are lower and there is higher economic need. Economic vulnerability, a lack of regulation, inadequate medical care, the absence of a functional legal system has all created the potential for harm. So what should countries do? Ban it, regulate it, let the market determine what happens? Interests and rights must be in balance. A second example that you're all very familiar with is our immigration and border regulation policies. The debate has been fierce in the last few years. Border walls, prosecutions, detentions, separation of families, and most recently, the exclusion of asylum seekers from U.S. territory. The right to asylum, once considered a framework so accepted, so fundamental to every humanitarian agreement that countries could never avoid it. And yet they are. Germany, the United Kingdom, the United States. Who comes in and under what circumstances? We have the capacity to build walls, create disincentives, surveil people, deport them, detain them. But how far are we willing to go to keep people out? And what are our obligations to those who make it in, even if they do so by breaking the rules? Do immigrants, even illegal ones, have rights that must be balanced against our state interests to regulate our borders? As I see it, to approach these problems, we must do so upon a foundation of how to think about the individual in reference to the group. Without this foundation, we lose our way. This is the aim of the human rights system, to provide a mechanism for thinking about the individual and what rights are guaranteed to the individual that cannot be taken away, or if they are restricted, are done so in a measured and thoughtful manner. All policies and all questions about how to use our technologies and capabilities must be responsive to some understanding of the rights of the individual against the benefits of the group. This question, and the ones that generate from it, are alive and present, and they are before us all with huge implications. How we answer them can represent one direction for humanity or another. These are your questions. They are my questions. They are the questions for the timeless, ever-present part of all of us. Which brings me to why I want to say all of this to this particular group of people. The thing I think that makes this place so special, and why these two experiences stand out to me after all this time, is the way that IMSA and the educational environment it provided me allowed me to process these questions. This institution, even 20 years into its existence, remains such a young and ambitious project. Its dual goals of education and contribution. Your families all sacrificed to send you here. You've heard this many, many times by now, I'm sure. But as a parent, I know now what it would mean to give up 3 years with your child. It is no small thing, and I am very grateful to my parents who are here that they were willing to make this sacrifice. But what it is doing for each of you, the very model of education IMSA gifts each student with, is to enable you all to enter the world as agents. By virtue of having been here, you're not passive receivers of knowledge, but agents, actors in the world. You will all be doers and thinkers. Some of you will be creators and innovators, others healers, peacemakers, and mediators. Some of you will be objectors, disruptors, and instigators. Some of you will just be straight-up troublemakers. The administration knows who you are now. But you know what? Bless you. And let's give a round of applause to all of the troublemakers. I am the mother of a troublemaker, and it is a wonderful thing. With agency comes an ability, both a foundation and a capacity, to play a role in making thoughtful, informed, and empathic decisions about the direction of our communities, of defining the scope of community, and our obligations to each individual within the community. It starts here with IMSA's mission to learn, educate, and contribute. I don't want to terrify you, but I do want you to take these questions, the projects of humanity, and adopt them, own them, and answer them. I want you, the timeless you, this group of immensely talented people, to explore them here and to share what you learn with the country and the world. In your 1, 2, 3 years remaining, be those agents. Soak in what is given to you. Allow yourself to be catapulted forward through this education, and then join us in answering the questions of our time. And for each of you, I hope that you may be a slightly different version of the timeless you when you are in your 40s, that one day you are on the phone with one of your very treasured IMSA friends, and that he or she will be saying to you that you are exactly where you are meant to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claudia. That was wonderful. Let's give her another hand. The auditorium is a central assembly space here at IMSA. It's a place where the IMSA experience comes alive in academic programming, Great Minds program, as you mentioned, cultural celebrations, the arts, including drama and music. Together, the Samuel M. Cherry Memorial Trust, the IMSA Fund, and more than 100 individuals and businesses donated over $400,000 for the complete renovation of the 35 years plus old auditorium by way of a Save a Seat campaign. A spectrum of modern blue-gray chairs replaced the orange ones. The first 5 rows will even power your cell phone or laptop. I'm finally going to have some people in the front rows. A warm paint scheme covers the stark white walls. New carpet and sleek sound baffles improve the acoustics of the room. The stage is covered in dynamic stage padding, and the audio and video spaces are vastly expanded. We are thankful to the generosity that made these renovations possible. I appreciate Chris Cornsey, Vicki Bergholzer, Tammy Armstrong, and their staff for their work on this initiative. And at this time, we would like to present a video ribbon cutting and a tribute to the transformation of this historic place. I'm proud to officially dedicate the new auditorium to IMSA and invite all of you to stop by and see it for the first time after the program today and throughout the day. Thank you.
So Claudia, can you come up? As we come to an end to this year's 2019-2020 Convocation, we'd like to end with an IMSA tradition that was started by former principal Dr. Eric McLaren. Each year, we use the school bell to indicate a fresh start to the new year. I am asking Claudia to ring in the bell to officially begin the 2019-20 school year.
Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Enjoy the day. Thank you again for attending the convocation.